All right, welcome to the fourth and final game of the evening. Up this time is Voodoo Detective. Do you like adventure, comedy, and the dime store detective novels? Then, boy, do we have the game for you. Join Voodoo Detective in a hand-drawn point-and-click noir where you pit your wits against the hoodoo know-how against the sinister evil that's taken root on beautiful Zawanga Isle. Let's see. Right, so Voodoo Detective here is a very traditional point and click adventure game, like which is I'd say one of the more common game types we've covered on the program. And you might in terms of its graphical styling and fidelity, this game probably would have been lauded quite highly had it come out in, say, 1998. It reminds me of, like, the late 90s, specifically in the style of, say, The Curse of Monkey Isle or The Last Express. At least in terms of, not just the graphics on display, but the animation is particularly impressive.
It actually looks really nice, even in just this small window.
Yes, and that is kept pretty consistently. But to all things, there is a price. I would say that the game sacrificed length and complexity for its stellar graphics. That is to say, in terms of adventure games, this is pretty simple. Like, I don't mean that in a bad way, but you're not really going to get a elaborate multi-step puzzle in this game. And also, the locations aren't very spacious. There aren't many of them in general. And the entire game will probably run you about 5-6 hours, provided you don't take any of the non-standard game overs. You'll know them when you see them. They are pretty obvious in, oh, hey, if you go this route, you're going to get a bad ending, let's say. And, it's like, none of this is bad. I'm just saying that compared to some of the other, new adventure games we've covered on the program, this is definitely not, not as complex in its puzzle structure. Which, once again, is not necessarily a bad thing when it comes to point-and-click adventure games. Because, the danger you run there is running into the developer's own moon logic. And I would say the game mostly avoids that. There was probably once or twice when I wasn't exactly sure what to do or what the game wanted, but those were exceedingly rare. Which is, once again, very nice for this type of game. And yeah, in terms of, the story, so I guess I'll have to address this right out the gate. Your character's name is actually Voodoo Detective. Like, that is his birth name. And he became a Voodoo Detective. And yes, he will introduce himself that way to, like, everyone he meets. He is Voodoo Detective, and he is a Voodoo Detective. I suppose it's a good thing that lined up, since, he didn't end up at his brother's bar. He didn't...
Yeah, it's super awkward when your name is Voodoo Detective, but you get a job as a, bartender or car mechanic.
Yeah, something like this. And I suppose since the game itself brings it up, this is very, this does draw upon the actual traditions of the voodoo religion. I don't know. It was just a bit weird to see a warning label about that. This might be interpreted as cultural appropriation kind of deal. When I don't know, it's just when it came to voodoo, nobody gave a toss. About having say Baron Samedi in this game. They actually get his pronunciation right. It's Baron Samedi. For your James Bond film.
This will also be known to you if you fucking speak French at all.
Right. Well, yeah, voodoo in this country is really centered around Louisiana, which is
and some on Haiti, I think, which is also francophone.
Well, yeah, it came from Haiti, and the West Africa before then. It's like we don't really have a deep time to get into a deep dive about the actual voodoo religion. Just note that, this game is using a lot of terminology from the religion to tell its own story. And it does warn you up front because I suppose there's no smooth way to bring it up, but I'm pretty sure that the writers of this adventure game are white. So, you can see where the culture clash might occur. Especially if you're using real world religiosity, even if it is like voodoo, because once again, it's not a religion that's seen a lot of respect in actual media depictions, to say the least. This definitely treats it more respectfully than, a lot of media in, say, the 80s. But, I suppose if that is an issue, seek another adventure game or something like that. Because, as far as the actual story told, it's fine. It's not amazing. It's not beating out the first Gabriel Knight game in terms of, anything. But, this is a good use of voodoo, I'd say, in these particular cultural mores. Granted, another caveat, we are all white as well, so we cannot really speak to an actual point of view of voodoo practicing. But, such debates get further complicated by the whole notion of gatekeeping. I don't know. Like I said, and it's also worth noting that even though you've got a lot of, actual terminology, another example would be the Govi, I'm trying to remember how they pronounce it here, the Hanfors. I just remember the Gabriel Knight way of pronouncing that, stuff like that. But the setting and location isn't Louisiana or anywhere in the Gulf Coast. It is a fictional place. The Zawanga, as it, if it exists in real life, it's definitely not this. Although it's got an interesting narrative, especially for what year it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be the 1920s or the 1930s, somewhere in that time, somewhere in the earlier 20th century. But one of the main narrative foci is the encroachment of the modern day tourist. And, the tourist with a capital T. That is, they go to the very flashy places, they buy the cheap shit, that kind of thing.
Try to avoid any actual interaction with the natives.
I'm the natives hate them. They hate them all. Like I said, it's a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Really, the whole package is very well put together. It is fully voice acted, and it's got, how do I put this? Professional voice talent. Like, it's not just the developers' brothers or what have you doing the voices here. No, they've got, it's even on the Steam page here. Prominent voice talent from games and films such as Mass Effect, Dragon Age, Final Fantasy, Fallout, Diablo, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Star Trek, Austin Powers, and many more. Trust me, it's the kind of thing that makes a difference. That's not to say that less professional, if you will, voice actors can't do a good job, but when your voice acting is your actual job, you will pick up the difference. Voice acting was impeccable. I did. Just a really solid game. Maybe not my favorite or best game that I played this year, but probably in the conversation at the very least. So very high recommendation there. Like I said, I'd say the only caveats in terms of picking up this game is if you have a problem with the themes invested upon, or if you're looking for something a bit meatier in terms of an adventure game, because this isn't going to last you long. And while there are multiple endings, this is definitely a one and done. And in terms of actual pricing, it clocks in at $14.99. Cut it a bit close with how long this is. Because once again, it's 5 to 6 hours. It's not a long adventure game. But I think its production values are enough to overcome that particular deficiency. And let me see. So any other questions, comments, or concerns?
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
All right, then. So, yeah, that'll about do it for Voodoo Detective and, indeed, our review session. So, the week ahead. Coming up on Wednesday, June 15th, we'll be welcoming back to the program Joey Zielakowski of Shell Games / Toontown Rewritten. Not sure how much Toontown Rewritten is going to be covered. I'm hoping this time we can cover more the Shell game side of things, since we did not even get into any of that last time. We'll see how it plays out. We do have a Friday show this week. On Friday, June 17th, we will be welcoming Magnus Johnson of Nuttery Entertainment. They are the creators of the recently released game Whiskey Zombies. Right. And let me see. We do have a new installment of Moonhawk Studios Presents. The full crew will be back, as I understand it. Both Kevin and Varius are returning from their respective breaks.
Presuming Mac doesn't suffer from some disaster.
I mean, do we even have to say that at this point? That's just
I guess it is kind of a consistent thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's just kind of been the sort of Damocles every week. Though this week we do have a guest, so it's a bit more urgent than last week, where not only did we were missing about a quarter of the crew, we were missing a guest. So it was an easy cancellation. Anyway, so that's what's on tap for next week. And until Wednesday, I shall wish you good gaming.